Ivy kissed Lee Sung again. "Promise me you will never leave me," she whispered, her voice trembling against his lips. Lee Sung smiled in that slow, confident way that always made her heart soften. "I will never leave you. I love you so much. You know tomorrow is special for me," she said, searching his eyes. "Of course I do." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I got something special for you." Her heart lifted. "What is it?" "A birthday gift," he said. She smiled. "And a Valentine's gift." The smile faded slightly. Valentine's Day. The word alone felt like a bruise. Her first love had broken up with her on Valentine's Day in high school. In front of everyone. Laughter. Whispers. Shame. "I would prefer we celebrate my birthday at home," she said gently. "Just you and me. I'm not ready for Valentine's celebrations." "Is it because of what happened back then?" he asked. She nodded. He cupped her face. "Trust me. You won't regret it. I promise." She believed him, unaware that Lee Sung had never kept a promise in his life. And this time, his plans were already in motion. Before we continue, thank you for tuning in. If you love emotional stories filled with romance, betrayal, suspense, and powerful comebacks, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Your support keeps these amazing stories coming. Now, let's begin. Valentine's Day in Seoul was loud. Restaurants glowed with pink lights. Couples filled the sidewalks. Flower shops sold out before noon. Ivy sat inside D Garden Cafe holding a bouquet of red roses. Her hands were shaking. Lee Sung sat across from her, dressed in a neat grey coat. "Calm. Too calm. You don't look happy," she said softly. "Is everything all right?" He didn't smile. He cleared his throat. "Ivy, listen to me carefully." Her stomach tightened. "I can't continue this relationship." The words felt unreal. She blinked. "What?" "I need space," he continued, his voice steady. "I need time to clear my head. You're not what I'm looking for anymore." Her chest burned. "Are you dumping me right now?" "Yes." Just like that. No emotion. No apology in his eyes. Tears fell before she could stop them. "But you said you loved me." He stood up. Things change. And then he walked away. No backward glance. No hesitation. The cafe noise returned slowly, like the world had pressed play again. Ivy sat frozen. The roses on the table looked foolish now. She stood up mechanically and walked to her car. The air outside felt colder than usual. Her vision blurred as she reversed out of the parking lot. Then, crash. Metal scraped against metal. Her heart dropped. She stepped out of her car, trembling. A sleek black Maybach stood behind her. The front bumper carried a small scratch. The driver's door opened slowly. And then he stepped out. Tall. Broad shoulders. Dark coat perfectly fitted. His face was sharp and calm, his expression unreadable. His eyes were steady, not angry, not rushed. He looked controlled. Ivy swallowed. "I'm so sorry. I didn't see, I wasn't." He walked toward her, but not aggressively. Carefully. Observing. "You look tense," he said in a low, smooth voice. "Are you hurt?" The question surprised her. "No. I'm fine," she said quickly. "But your car. I'll pay for it." He glanced at the scratch for 2 seconds. "It's nothing." She stared. "Nothing. It's just a car." His eyes studied her face. Her red eyes. The tears she was trying to hide. "Something happened," he said quietly. Not a question. She looked away. "It's not your business." A corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "You're right." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek card. Park Tan. CEO, P&J Empire. "If I change my mind about the scratch, I'll call," he said calmly. "And if you change your mind about whatever is breaking your heart, you can call too." She looked at him, confused. He turned and walked back to his car. The engine purred softly as he drove away. Ivy stood there, holding his card. Park Tan. She didn't know it yet. But that scratch in the dark would be the beginning of everything. Across the city, Valentine's night was still alive. Music echoed inside a dimly lit bar in Itaewon. Glasses clinked. Laughter floated through the air. Bora sat at the counter, swirling a small glass of soju between her fingers. She wore red. Not because she loved Valentine's Day, but because she wanted to be noticed. And she was. The door opened. Lee Sung walked in. His eyes scanned the room, then stopped when he saw her. A slow smile curved his lips. He walked toward her like he had expected her to be there. "What are you doing here?" he asked, sliding into the seat beside her. Bora raised one eyebrow. "Where do you expect a single girl to be on Valentine's Day?" He laughed softly. "Fair enough." She took a sip. "Shouldn't you be with Ivy?" A pause. Then casually, "We broke up." Bora turned fully toward him. "You did." "I ended it." Her lips pressed together to hide the satisfaction rising inside her chest. "I knew you would." He tilted his head. "You knew. You get bored easily," she said bluntly. "Ivy is sweet. Too sweet. You need excitement." He stared at her for a moment longer than necessary. "And you think you're exciting?" he asked. She held his gaze. "I know I am." The tension shifted. The air between them thickened. He placed his fingers lightly over hers on the counter. Testing. She didn't pull away. Instead, her breathing slowed. "You've always looked at me differently," she said quietly. "And you've always noticed," he replied. The second bottle of soju arrived. They drank. They laughed. They leaned closer. And when Bora's words began to slur slightly, Lee Sung stood and helped her up. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said, but she leaned into him anyway. "Do you want me to take you home?" She looked up at him. "Do you mind if I come to your place instead?" He didn't hesitate. That night, betrayal did not scream. It whispered. Meanwhile, Ivy lay awake in her apartment. The roses she had carried to the cafe sat in the trash. Her room felt too quiet. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every word Lee Sung had said. "You're not what I'm looking for anymore." Not his type. Not enough. She turned on her side and grabbed the small card from her bedside table. Park Tan. His calm voice echoed in her mind. "If you change your mind about whatever is breaking your heart, you can call too." Why did that line feel different? Why had he noticed her pain without her saying anything? Her phone buzzed suddenly. Her heart jumped. But it wasn't Lee Sung. It was Bora. "Are you home?" the text read. Ivy hesitated before replying. "Yes. Just got back." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. "Good. Rest well." That was it. Strange. Bora usually called. Asked questions. Demanded details. Tonight, she didn't. Ivy frowned slightly. Something felt off. But she pushed the thought away. She was overthinking. Across the city, Lee Sung carried Bora into his apartment. He placed her gently on his bed. "I should leave," he muttered, though he made no move to do so. Bora reached out and caught his sleeve. "Stay." He looked down at her. In that moment, there was no guilt in his eyes. Only desire. Their lips met slowly at first. Then deeper. And somewhere between warmth and weakness, lines were crossed. Lines that could never be erased. Morning came quietly. Sunlight spilled into Ivy's bedroom. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but something inside her felt strangely calm. She sat up slowly. "I will not let this define me," she whispered to herself. She walked to her desk. Picked up Park Tan's card again. Her fingers hovered over her phone. Then she typed. "Have you changed your mind about the scratch?" She stared at the message. Then pressed send. At the same time, Bora woke up in an unfamiliar bed. She blinked. Then turned her head. Lee Sung lay beside her. He was awake already. Watching her. "Hope you slept well," he said casually. She smiled slowly. "I did." He leaned closer. "I'm yours now." The words felt sweet. Dangerously sweet. She believed them. Ivy's phone buzzed. A reply. From Park Tan. "No." She frowned slightly. Then another message followed seconds later. "Dinner tomorrow. 8 p.m. Daesang Cafe. Don't be late." Her heart skipped. She didn't know why. But for the first time since last night. She smiled. What Ivy didn't know was this. The same Valentine's night that broke her had quietly set something powerful in motion. Because Park Tan was not a man who entered someone's life by accident. And Lee Sung had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The next evening, Ivy stood in front of her mirror longer than she wanted to admit. It was just dinner. Just a meeting. Just a man whose car she had scratched. So why was her heart beating like this? She adjusted her simple black dress and tied her hair back neatly. No heavy makeup. No effort to impress. "I'm not trying to fall in love," she whispered to her reflection. She was trying to move on. That was different. Daesang Cafe was quieter than D Garden. Soft lighting. Low music. Fewer couples. Park Tan was already seated when she arrived. Of course he was. He didn't look like a man who waited for anything. He wore a dark suit, simple but expensive. His posture straight. His presence calm but commanding. When Ivy stepped in, his eyes found her immediately. Not surprised. Not eager. Just aware. "You're on time," he said as she approached. "You said not to be late," she replied, taking her seat. A faint smile touched his lips. "Good. You listen well." She exhaled slowly. "About the scratch." "It's handled," he interrupted. "You said no yesterday." "I changed my mind," he said smoothly. She blinked. "So I owe you nothing?" He studied her face for a moment. "Dinner." Her eyebrows lifted. "Dinner is payment." "Time," he corrected. "Time is expensive." That caught her off guard. A waiter approached. Tan ordered without checking the menu. "You come here often?" she asked. "Yes." "With business partners?" "Sometimes." "With women?" He held her gaze. "I don't mix business and emotion." Her fingers tightened slightly around her glass. "And tonight?" she asked quietly. "Tonight is curiosity." Silence stretched between them, not awkward, but charged. She broke it first. "You noticed I was upset that night?" "Yes." "How?" "You were holding flowers like they were heavy." The answer struck her deeper than she expected. He had seen her pain without her explaining it. "I was dumped," she said plainly. He didn't flinch. "Publicly?" Her head snapped up. "How did you know?" "Men who break women on Valentine's Day prefer audiences." His voice was calm, but something colder moved beneath it. She swallowed. "You sound like you know." "I know men," he said simply. Dinner arrived. They ate slowly. Talked about small things at first, her job in IT, his company P&J Empire, the fast pace of Seoul. But beneath the conversation, something deeper moved. When she laughed at one of his dry remarks, he watched her carefully. "You don't laugh lightly," he observed. "I don't trust easily," she replied. "Good." She tilted her head. "Good. Yes. Trust should be earned." "And have you earned mine?" "Not yet." His honesty unsettled her. Most men would try to charm. He didn't try. He simply existed, steady, controlled, patient. After dinner, they walked outside. The night air was cool. "I'll drive you home," he said. "That's not necessary." It wasn't a question. She should have been annoyed. Instead, she felt safe. Inside his Maybach, silence felt different. Comfortable. "You work late hours?" he asked. "Sometimes." "Anyone waiting at home?" She hesitated. "Not anymore." He nodded once. When they reached her apartment building, he stepped out first and opened her door. She wasn't used to that. "Thank you for dinner," she said. "You're welcome." She turned to leave. "Ivy." She froze slightly at the sound of her name in his voice. "Yes. If he ever makes you question your worth again." His jaw tightened faintly. "Make sure he regrets it." Her heartbeat stumbled. "Why would you care?" she asked softly. He looked at her for a long moment. "I don't tolerate waste." "Waste?" "Men who throw away good women." The air shifted. For the first time, she saw something dangerous behind his calm eyes. Not anger. Protection. Possession. She stepped back slowly. "Good night, Park Tan." "Good night, Ivy." He waited until she entered the building before driving away. From across the street, inside a dark car with tinted windows, someone lowered a camera. A photo of Ivy entering the building. A photo of Park Tan driving off. A quiet voice spoke into a phone. He's getting close to her. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Bora sat across from Lee Sung at breakfast. So, she said lightly, stirring her coffee. What now? What do you mean? You broke up with Ivy. You're with me. He shrugged. Let's see where it goes. She frowned slightly. That's not an answer. He reached across the table and brushed her hand. Relax. But something in his tone was careless. And for the first time, Bora wondered if she had won something valuable. Or something temporary. Upstairs in her apartment, Ivy leaned against her door after entering. Her heart was beating faster than it should. She touched her chest lightly. What is wrong with me? She whispered. She wasn't falling. She wouldn't fall. Not again. But Park Tan wasn't like Lee Sung. He didn't chase. He didn't beg. He didn't promise. He observed. And somehow, that felt more dangerous. Across the city, Park Tan sat inside his office at P&J Empire. His right-hand man stood near the door. Sir, the man said carefully. There are reports that someone has been tracking your movements. Tan's expression didn't change. Connected to her, he asked. We're still investigating. Tan looked at the photo placed on his desk. Ivy. Laughing at dinner. For the first time in years, something inside him felt unsettled. Increase security around her, he said quietly. Without her knowing. Yes, sir. Tan leaned back in his chair. Valentine's Day had ended. But something much bigger had just begun. And Ivy had no idea that loving Park Tan would one day put her in danger. The next week passed quietly. Too quietly. Ivy tried to return to normal life. She focused on work. Answered emails. Sat through long meetings. Smiled when required. But her mind kept drifting. To calm dark eyes. To a low steady voice. To the way Park Tan had said her name like it meant something. She hated that it affected her. She hated that she noticed. On Thursday afternoon, her phone buzzed. Park Tan. Lunch. 1 p.m. P&J Empire. That was it. No question mark. She stared at the message. Then typed. Is this business or curiosity? The reply came instantly. Both. Her lips curved slightly. P&J Empire towered over Gangnam like it owned the skyline. Glass walls. Steel edges. Security tight but quiet. Ivy stepped inside and immediately felt it. Power. Employees moved quickly but respectfully. Conversations stopped when Tan walked through the lobby. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He made rooms quiet. When she reached the executive floor, he was waiting. You found the place, he said. It wasn't exactly hidden. He gave a faint smile. Few things I do are. That line lingered. They walked into his office. It was large but minimal. No clutter. No personal photos. Just clean surfaces and city views. You don't decorate, she asked. I don't stay long enough to. That sounds lonely. He studied her. It sounds efficient. Lunch arrived. But this time, the conversation shifted. What exactly does P&J Empire do? She asked carefully. Import. Export. Logistics. Investments. That's vague. On purpose. She leaned back. You don't trust easily. No, he said calmly. But I observe carefully. He poured tea into her cup. I need someone competent, he continued. Discreet. Intelligent. Calm under pressure. Her brows lifted. You're recruiting? Yes. For what position? My executive manager. She almost choked. You're joking. I don't joke about work. I have a job. I'll double your salary. Silence. Why me? She asked slowly. Because you didn't cry for attention that night. Her heartbeat shifted. You cried, he corrected gently. But privately. That matters. She looked down at her hands. I don't mix emotion and business, he added. You said that before. And I meant it. She swallowed. So this is strictly professional? He held her gaze. For now. The tension was sharp. Unexpected. Alive. That evening, Ivy sat alone in her apartment, staring at the contract he had sent. It was legitimate. Generous. Too generous. Her phone buzzed again. This time, Bora. Hey stranger, Bora's voice sounded cheerful. You've been quiet. I've been busy. With what? Work. Bora laughed softly. You sound different. How? Stronger. Ivy paused. Bora, where were you on Valentine's night? Silence. I was out, Bora replied quickly. Why? No reason. But something inside Ivy shifted. A crack. A small one. She ended the call and leaned back. She didn't want to suspect her best friend. But Bora hadn't called her that night. Hadn't comforted her. Hadn't shown up. That wasn't like her. Unless. No. She pushed the thought away. Meanwhile, in a private lounge downtown, Lee Sung sat across from Bora. You've been distracted, Bora said. I have business plans, he replied. What plans? A new tech company. Bigger than before. With whose money? He smiled slowly. Investors. And if they don't invest, they will. His confidence was almost reckless. And Ivy? Bora asked carefully. He shrugged. She'll be fine. Something in Bora's chest tightened. That answer was too easy. Back at P&J Empire, Park Tan stood beside his right-hand man. Any movement? Tan asked. Yes, sir. A rival group has been asking about you. Or about her. We believe, both. Tan's jaw tightened slightly. He walked to the window overlooking Seoul. Protect her, he said quietly. Without her knowing. Yes, sir. For the first time in years, something had entered his life that he did not plan. And that made him dangerous. The next morning, Ivy walked into P&J Empire with signed papers. Tan was waiting. You're sure? He asked. No, she admitted honestly. But I'm brave enough. That made him smile. And when Park Tan smiled, it felt rare. Valuable. Welcome to P&J Empire, he said. Their hands touched briefly as he took the file. The contact was small, but electric. Neither of them pulled away quickly. Neither of them said what they were thinking. Because some connections don't begin loudly. They begin quietly. And then they change everything. As Ivy left his office, she didn't notice the camera in the hallway. She didn't notice the man watching from a parked car outside the building. And she definitely didn't know this truth. Loving Park Tan would not just change her heart. It would test her strength. And soon. Valentine's Day would no longer be her biggest fear. Ivy's first week at P&J Empire felt like stepping into another universe. Everything moved with precision. No one spoke louder than necessary. No one questioned instructions. Meetings started on time and ended before excuses could form. And at the center of it all, Park Tan. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. But when he entered a room, the air shifted. People straightened. Phones lowered. Eyes followed him. Ivy noticed. And she began to understand something important. Power didn't always scream. Sometimes it whispered. On her third day, she sat across from him in the boardroom reviewing shipment documents. These numbers don't match, she said, pointing at the screen. Tan leaned closer. Their shoulders almost touched. Explain. The Hong Kong shipment. It's listed twice under 2 subsidiaries. He studied it carefully. A slow smile appeared. Good catch. She looked at him. That wasn't an accident. No, he said calmly. It wasn't. She hesitated. Then what was it? He closed the laptop gently. Not everything in business is clean, Ivy. Her heart beat a little faster. You said import and export, she reminded him. That's still true. But that's not all. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood and walked to the window. Do you trust me? He asked without turning around. The question caught her off guard. I barely know you. He nodded slightly. Fair. He turned back to face her. I built P&J Empire from nothing. I came to Seoul with debt and enemies. I survived because I learned to control markets that others were afraid to touch. What kind of markets? She asked quietly. The kind that require loyalty and silence. The weight of his words hung between them. You're not just a businessman, she whispered. His eyes held hers. No. A strange calm settled over her instead of fear. Are you dangerous? She asked. Only to those who try to hurt what is mine. The way he said it made her chest tighten. What am I? She asked softly. His jaw flexed slightly. You're not mine, he said carefully. Not yet. The air felt thinner. Her heart raced. You're honest, she murmured. I don't lie about important things. Silence filled the room. Not awkward. Intense. Alive. That evening, Tan insisted on driving her home again. You don't have to, she said. I know. Inside the car, city lights reflected against the glass. I need to ask you something, she said. Ask. Why did you really offer me this job? He didn't answer immediately. You're steady, he said at last. Most people panic when they enter my world. And I don't. You ask questions. She gave a small smile. That annoys you. It intrigues me. Her heartbeat stumbled at the word. When they reached her apartment, she didn't open the door immediately. You said you don't mix business and emotion, she said. Yes. And yet, he repeated quietly. His hand moved slowly, brushing a loose strand of hair away from her face. He gave her time to pull back. She didn't. Ivy, he said, her name low and steady. Her breath caught. Yes. If I step closer, I won't step back. Her heart pounded. Then don't step closer unless you're sure. His thumb traced lightly along her cheek. I've never been more sure. And then he kissed her. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It was controlled. Deep. Intentional. When he pulled away, her fingers were gripping his coat. You're dangerous, she whispered. I warned you. I'm not scared. That's what worries me. Across the city, Lee Sung sat in a private office with potential investors. We need a merger, one man said sharply. Without backing, Lee Band Holdings won't survive. Lee Sung forced a confident smile. It will survive. Through who? He hesitated for half a second. P&J Empire. The investors exchanged looks. Park Tan doesn't merge easily, one of them said. He destroys competition. Lee Sung's jaw tightened. He won't destroy me. He believed that. He had no idea how wrong he was. Later that night, Tan stood in his penthouse staring at the city. His right-hand man entered quietly. Sir. Lee Band Holdings has submitted preliminary merger interest. Tan didn't turn around. Under whose name? Lee Sung. Silence. Tan's expression darkened almost invisibly. And his personal life? Tan asked calmly. He's currently involved with a woman named Bora. Tan's eyes narrowed slightly. Connected to Ivy? Yes. They were best friends. For a long moment, Tan said nothing. Then, prepare everything. For the merger. No. For war. Meanwhile, Ivy lay in her bed replaying the kiss in her mind. She felt something new. Not desperation. Not fear. But choice. For the first time, she wasn't chasing love. She was walking toward it. Unaware that two worlds were about to collide. And when they did, Valentine's Day would no longer be about heartbreak. It would be about power. The merger proposal arrived on a Monday morning. Ivy was alone in her office when the notification appeared on her screen. Lee Band Holdings strategic merger request. Her hand froze on the mouse. The air in the room felt heavier. Slowly, she opened the document. And there it was. CEO, Lee Sung. Her pulse thudded in her ears. For a full year, she had rebuilt herself. She had grown stronger. Wiser. Calmer. But healing does not erase memory. It simply teaches you how to breathe through it. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes briefly. So, she whispered to herself. You need me now. A small knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she said. Park Tan stepped inside. He had that same composed expression. Calm. Controlled. But his eyes were searching. You've seen it, he said. Yes. Silence stretched between them. Are you all right? He asked. She nodded once. I'm not 17 anymore. A flicker of approval crossed his face. He needs this merger, Tan continued. Without it, His investors will pull out. Then why are we even considering it? She asked. Because leverage is power. She studied him carefully. And what are you planning to leverage? His gaze darkened slightly. Truth. Later that afternoon, Ivy stepped outside the building to clear her head. The sky above Seoul was grey. Cold wind brushed against her skin. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated. Then answered. Hello, Ivy. Her body went still. Lee Sung. His voice sounded the same. Smooth. Familiar. I heard you're at P&J Empire now, he continued. That's correct. I didn't expect to see your name reviewing our proposal. She let out a soft breath. Life is full of surprises. A short pause. I think we should talk, he said. About business? About everything. Her chest tightened, but her voice stayed steady. There is no everything, Lee Sung. There is business. I made mistakes, he added quickly. She almost laughed. You didn't make mistakes, she replied calmly. You made choices. Silence. I'd like to meet, he insisted. She thought about it for a moment, then said something that even surprised her. Fine. Come to P&J Empire tomorrow. Alone. Alone, he repeated. Yes. She ended the call before he could respond. Her hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, from anticipation. That evening, Bora stood inside Lee Sung's apartment. I saw the proposal, she said. You're merging with P&J? It's strategic, he replied. You didn't tell me Ivy works there. It's irrelevant. Irrelevant? Bora's voice sharpened. She's your ex. And you're my present. The words were meant to comfort, but they sounded temporary. You won't do anything stupid, right? Bora asked quietly. Lee Sung walked toward her. You're overthinking. But for the first time, Bora felt a small crack in her confidence. What if Ivy wasn't broken anymore? What if she had become something else? Inside his penthouse, Park Tan stood by the window again. He always stood by the window when thinking. She agreed to meet him, his right-hand man reported. I know. Do you want us to intervene? Tan's jaw tightened slightly. No. Sir, this could be emotional. Yes, Tan said calmly. That's why she must face it herself. He trusted her strength. But that didn't mean he wasn't ready. Keep security discreet, he added. Understood. Tan poured himself a glass of water, untouched by nerves but alert. Lee Sung thought this was a merger. He didn't understand. This was a reckoning. The next morning arrived cold and clear. Ivy stood in her office wearing a fitted navy dress. Professional. Composed. No visible weakness. Her assistant stepped inside. Ms. Ivy, Mr. Lee Sung is here. Her heartbeat slowed instead of racing. Send him in. The door opened. Lee Sung stepped inside. He looked confident at first. Then he saw her. Not crying. Not shaking. Not waiting. She was seated behind a polished desk. In control. For a brief second, his expression faltered. Ivy, he said softly. Mr. Lee, she replied coolly. Please sit. He did. The air between them was thick with history. You look different, he said. I am. A long pause followed. I didn't expect this, he admitted. Neither did I, she replied calmly. But here we are. He leaned forward slightly. I never meant to hurt you. She held his gaze. You didn't mean not to. The words hit harder than shouting would have. His jaw tightened. I was confused. No, she said quietly. You were careless. Silence swallowed the room. He looked down briefly. I regret it, he murmured. She studied him carefully. Regret. Or desperation. I'm not here for apologies, she said finally. You need this merger. Yes. And without it, my company collapses. There it was. Truth. She folded her hands neatly on the desk. Then let's talk terms. He blinked. You're willing to consider it? Her lips curved slightly. Of course. Outside the office, Park Tan watched through the glass wall. His face unreadable. But inside, he was already 10 steps ahead. Because this wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And Ivy was no longer the girl who cried in cafes. She was the woman who decided outcomes. Valentine's Day returned quietly. No warning. No mercy. Exactly 1 year after Ivy had been left sitting alone in D Garden Cafe with roses on the table and humiliation in her chest. But this year was different. This year, she was not waiting for anyone. She stood in front of the mirror in Park Tan's penthouse, adjusting the delicate silver earrings he had given her earlier that evening. "You're thinking too much," Tan said from behind her. She met his reflection in the mirror. "It's just a date." "It's not just a date," he corrected gently. "It's a memory trying to repeat itself." She turned to face him fully. "I'm not scared of Valentine's Day anymore." His eyes softened. "Good. Because I refuse to let it hurt you twice." He stepped closer and placed a small box in her hands. She opened it slowly. A deep burgundy Birkin bag. Her breath caught. "Tan. It's not about the bag," he said quietly. "It's about replacing a bad memory with a better one." Emotion rose in her chest unexpectedly. "You always do too much," she whispered. "I don't do enough," he replied. And then he kissed her forehead gently. Not rushed. Not possessive. Intentional. The restaurant was elegant but not crowded. Tan had chosen a quiet place overlooking the Han River. No loud music. No bright decorations. Just candlelight and calm. Ivy felt steady. Until she saw them. Near the window. Lee Sung. And Bora. Her breath paused for half a second. Not pain. Recognition. Bora saw her first. Her smile faded. Lee Sung followed her gaze. And froze. Tan noticed the shift instantly. "Ghosts?" he asked calmly. "Yes," Ivy replied. "Do you want to leave?" She shook her head slowly. "No. I want to finish my dinner." Tan studied her face. There was no trembling. No fear. Only clarity. He nodded once. "Then we stay." Dinner was halfway done when Bora stood up. She walked toward Ivy's table. Lee Sung followed reluctantly. "Hi," Bora said, her voice light but strained. Ivy looked up slowly. "Bora." For a moment, they just stared at each other. A year of silence between them. "You look good," Bora added. "So do you," Ivy replied calmly. Lee Sung cleared his throat. "Ivy." She turned her eyes to him. Cool. Unemotional. "Yes." His confidence flickered. "I didn't expect to see you here." "It's Valentine's Day," she said softly. "People celebrate." The words carried quiet weight. Bora shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't mean to run into you." "Of course not," Ivy said gently. Tan remained seated, observing. Silent. But his presence alone made the air tight. Lee Sung glanced at him. "And you are?" Tan stood slowly. "Park Tan." Recognition flashed across Lee Sung's face. The CEO of P&J Empire. The man holding his company's future. "Ah," Lee Sung forced a smile. "We've emailed." "Yes," Tan replied evenly. "We have." Bora looked between them, confusion creeping in. "You work together?" she asked Ivy. Ivy smiled faintly. "I review merger proposals." The color drained slightly from Bora's face. "You're handling Liban's merger?" she asked. "Yes." Silence fell like a dropped glass. Lee Sung's jaw tightened. "You didn't mention that," Bora said sharply. "You didn't ask," Ivy replied calmly. There was no anger in her tone. That unsettled Bora more. Lee Sung stepped closer. "Can we talk?" "Privately?" Ivy looked at Tan. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. "I'll be right here," he said quietly. She stood. 2 minutes, she said to Lee Sung. They stepped aside. Far enough to speak. Close enough for Tan to watch. "You're using this," Lee Sung muttered under his breath. "Using what?" "Our history." She almost smiled. "You think this is about history? You're punishing me." Her eyes hardened slightly. "I'm negotiating." He stared at her. "You've changed." "Yes," she said simply. "Pain educates." He ran a hand through his hair. "You could destroy us. Or save you," she replied. Bora was watching them from across the room. Her hands trembling slightly. Something was slipping. Something she didn't control. Lee Sung lowered his voice. Do you still hate me? The question surprised her. She considered it. No, she answered honestly. Then what do you feel? She met his eyes steadily. Nothing. That hurt him more than anger would have. She turned back toward Tan. Bora stepped forward quickly. For a year, Ivy said softly, looking directly at her, you didn't call. Not once. Bora swallowed. I didn't know how. You knew how, Ivy replied. You just chose not to. The truth hung heavy. Bora's eyes glistened. But Ivy didn't comfort her. Not this time. Tan gently placed his hand on Ivy's lower back. A simple gesture. But it said everything. Lee Sung saw it. And understood something too late. He hadn't just lost a girlfriend. He had lost access. To power. To opportunity. To her. As Ivy and Tan walked out together, Bora's voice cracked behind them. This isn't over. Ivy didn't turn around. Yes, she said calmly. It is. Outside, cold air wrapped around them. Tan opened the car door for her. You handled that well, he said. I didn't plan to. You didn't need to. She looked at him carefully. This merger, she asked quietly. What are you really planning? His eyes met hers. To let truth do the damage. Her heart beat once, strong. Tomorrow, she whispered. Yes, he replied. Tomorrow. The day everything would shift. The morning after Valentine's Day felt unnaturally calm. Too calm. Ivy arrived at P&J Empire earlier than usual. The office floor was quiet, the city outside still waking up. She placed her bag on the desk and stood by the window. 1 year ago, she had cried in a cafe bathroom. Today, she was preparing a negotiation that would decide the fate of a company. Growth did not happen loudly. It happened in moments like this. Her phone buzzed. Lee Sung. I'm on my way. She didn't reply. Instead, she walked into Park Tan's office. He was already aware. You're certain? He asked. Yes. Once this starts, there's no going back. She held his gaze. There was no going back the night he left me. A slow nod. Tan pressed a button on his desk. His right-hand man entered quietly. Cameras? Tan asked. Installed. Audio clear. Only internal security has access. Ivy inhaled slowly. This isn't revenge, Tan said calmly. I know. It's exposure. She nodded. That was the difference. Revenge is emotional. Exposure is strategic. An hour later, Lee Sung stepped into Ivy's office. He looked composed, but his eyes betrayed tension. You look confident, he said, trying to smile. I am, she replied evenly. He took a seat across from her desk. Let's finalize this, he said quickly. Our investors are expecting good news. Are they? She asked softly. He leaned forward. Ivy, we don't have time for games. She tilted her head slightly. Games? His jaw tightened. You know what I mean. She stood slowly and walked around the desk. No anger in her steps. Only control. You said something to me once, she began quietly. He frowned slightly. You said I wasn't your type anymore. He shifted uncomfortably. I was immature. You said you needed space. Yes. You said I wasn't enough. Silence. Her voice remained steady. Today, you need something from me. His breathing slowed. Let's not mix personal feelings with business. She almost smiled. I'm not. She stepped closer. Close enough for him to smell her perfume. Close enough to blur memory and reality. What if, she said softly, we got back together? His eyes widened slightly. What? Let's say we fix things. Publicly. He stared at her, confused. Why would you say that? Because I know you, she replied gently. You always want what looks good. He swallowed. And you think I still want you? He asked cautiously. She stepped even closer. Don't you? The room felt smaller. Warmer. He stood slowly. I never stopped thinking about you, he admitted quietly. The words were automatic. Convenient. She looked up at him. Prove it. His hesitation lasted only a second. Then he cupped her face and kissed her. Deep. Familiar. Possessive. I missed you, he whispered against her lips. Outside the office, hidden cameras captured everything. Every angle. Every word. Every second. She let him hold her for a moment longer. Then gently pushed him away. "That's enough for today," she said calmly. He blinked. "What?" "Bring your business partner tomorrow," she added smoothly. "We'll finalize everything." He nodded slowly, still slightly dazed. "You won't regret this," he said confidently. She stepped back toward her desk. "I won't." He left the office unaware that his entire future had just cracked open. Inside the security room, Park Tan watched the footage without emotion. His right-hand man glanced at him carefully. "Sir." Tan's expression was unreadable. "Send it," he said quietly. That night, the internet did what it always does. It exploded. Photos of Lee Sung kissing Ivy inside P&J Empire spread across business blogs and investor forums. Headlines screamed, "CEO of Lee Band Holdings caught cheating during critical merger talks. Scandal threatens major corporate deal." Bora's phone would not stop vibrating. Message after message. Investor after investor pulling back. She stormed into Lee Sung's apartment. "What is this?" she demanded, shoving her phone in his face. He looked at the screen. His blood drained. "It's not what it looks like. It looks like you kissing her," she shouted. "It was strategic." "For what?" "Romance," she snapped. He ran a hand through his hair, panic creeping in. "I can fix this." "No," she said quietly. Her voice changed. Colder. "You just destroyed everything." His phone buzzed again. Another investor withdrawing. Another deal collapsing. Within hours, Lee Band Holdings began to crumble. Not because Ivy destroyed it. Because he exposed himself. Meanwhile, Ivy stood on the balcony of Tan's penthouse. The city lights shimmered below. Her phone buzzed once. Merger officially withdrawn. She exhaled slowly. Tan stepped behind her. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. She thought for a moment. "No." He wrapped his arms gently around her waist. "This is the last time anyone humiliates you," he said quietly. She leaned back against him. "I didn't do this for humiliation," she said. "I know." She closed her eyes briefly. For the first time, Valentine's Day no longer felt like a wound. It felt like a turning point. Inside the city, Lee Sung's empire collapsed piece by piece. And Bora realized something terrifying. Ivy had never been weak. She had just been patient. By morning, Lee Band Holdings was finished. Not officially bankrupt yet, but spiritually destroyed. Investors had withdrawn overnight. Board members refused to answer calls. News outlets replayed the footage on every business channel in Seoul. Lee Sung sat alone in his apartment, staring at his phone. Message after message. Deal cancelled. Partnership suspended. Reputation under review. One mistake. One careless kiss. And everything collapsed. For the first time in his life, he understood something painful. He had underestimated Ivy. Across the city, Bora packed her suitcase quietly. Her grandfather had called at dawn. "Come home," he had said. No warmth. No comfort. She looked around the apartment she once felt proud to enter. Now it felt borrowed. Temporary. Just like Lee Sung's promises. Her phone buzzed. A final message from him. "I can fix this." She stared at it. Then deleted it. Some damage cannot be reversed. Some bridges burn completely. And she knew now. She had chosen wrong. Meanwhile, Ivy sat in Park Tan's office reviewing reports. The merger withdrawal had stabilized P&J Empire's stock value instead of hurting it. In fact, investors praised Tan's strategic foresight. She almost laughed. It hadn't been foresight. It had been patience. Tan entered quietly. "It's done," he said. "Yes," she replied. He walked closer. "How do you feel?" She paused. She searched herself carefully. "No anger," she said slowly. "No pain." He studied her face. "And no satisfaction?" She thought again. "Closure," she corrected. He nodded once. That was the answer he had hoped for. A week later, Tan asked her to clear her schedule. "Where are we going?" she asked as his car left the city. "You'll see." They drove toward Incheon. Toward the sea. The air grew cooler. Quieter. They stopped near a private stretch of shoreline where the water moved gently against dark rocks. Ivy stepped out of the car and inhaled deeply. "This is beautiful," she whispered. Tan stood beside her, hands in his coat pockets. "A year ago," he began calmly, "you were left alone on Valentine's Day." She nodded slightly. "I don't erase the past," he continued. "I replace it." She looked up at him. Before she could speak, he reached into his coat. Not a Birkin. Not jewelry. A small velvet box. Her breath caught. "Tan." He stepped closer. "I don't promise lightly," he said. "And I don't step into someone's life unless I intend to stay." Her heart pounded harder with each word. "You once told someone to promise never to leave you," he continued softly. "He failed." His voice grew firmer. "I don't fail." And then, Park Tan knelt. The ocean wind moved around them, carrying silence and weight. "Ivy," he said, looking up at her, "marry me." Tears filled her eyes instantly. "You changed my world," he continued. "You walked into it when it was built on silence and control, and you made it human." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "I don't need you because I'm powerful," he added. "I choose you because you are strong." The ring caught the soft light of the afternoon sky. Her voice trembled. Yes. Just one word. But it carried everything. He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms. This kiss was different from all the others. Not uncertain. Not strategic. Certain. Permanent. "I love you," she whispered against his chest. "I know," he replied softly. "And I will spend my life proving I deserve it." Months later, Lee Sung watched news headlines from a small rented office space. P&J Empire expands internationally. CEO Park Tan announces engagement. A photo appeared on the screen. Ivy. Radiant. Calm. Unbreakable. He looked away. Not because it hurt, but because he finally understood. Some people are lessons. Others are destiny. He had been a lesson. On a quiet evening back in Seoul, Ivy stood on the balcony of her new home. The city lights glittered beneath her. Tan walked up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Still thinking?" he asked. "Just remembering," she replied. "About him?" "No," she said softly. "About her. The girl she used to be. The girl who cried in cafes. The girl who believed promises too easily." She smiled faintly. "She survived," Tan said gently. "Yes," Ivy whispered. "She did." He turned her slightly to face him. "You're not the girl who was dumped anymore." She shook her head. "No. You're the woman who decided her own ending." She leaned into him. And for the first time, Valentine's Day no longer belonged to heartbreak. It belonged to strength. To power. To love chosen carefully. Ivy wasn't the girl who got left behind. She was the woman who walked forward. And Park Tan walked beside her. Not as a savior. Not as revenge. But as a partner. And this time, love stayed.